My name is Nasra Hussein, 17 years old, from Kenya, Nairobi. On a Sunday afternoon, my family was having a get-together for the Somali Bantu community to socialize and have fun. I finished all my chores, and when I asked my mother if I could go outside and play with the other children, she said yes and added one of her famous sayings, "Maduyak iskadaremana yonte galiaku hankabirimtang," which means, watch out for black people and don't move out of the way for white people. I didn't even understand at the time what she meant, so I just nodded my head, put on my Jordans and my hijab, and grabbed a juice box and a sambusa. I ran down the steps and out the door and spotted a couple kids. We all decided to play freeze tag. We were laughing, screaming, having the best time of our lives. The sun was beaming on our beautiful golden brown skin. Everything was going great. Until it wasn't. These two older girls walked up to the fence around our yard and yelled out, "Hey, you dirty Africans, go back to your country." We all looked back at them and started screaming crude and mean words back. One of the older girls decided words weren't enough to hurt us, so she threw a rock that hit my 4-year-old cousin in the head. One minute we were playing freeze tag, and the next minute I had blood on my shoes. A warm, sunny afternoon turned into a horrific incident simply because we were from Africa. I've been seeing this hate between Africans and African Americans ever since I was a child. You wouldn't believe some of the outrageous things I've heard about Africans growing up. That we stink, that we're stupid, that we don't share the same history, but we benefit off of their struggle. That we sold them into slavery and are more accepted by white people. And at home, my mother was not a fan of African Americans. Before she came into this country, she had this narrative of African Americans, and from then on, she just stuck with that narrative. Growing up in this country, I've lived a double life. At home, I was African, and at school, I was American. At home, I would speak my language, but I would never dare to speak it out in public. After a teacher told us to shut up and speak English once, I whispered things in my language so Americans couldn't hear me. I wouldn't even translate for Somalis in 5th grade because I just didn't want to be associated with them. I was embarrassed of my ethnicity. I wanted to be seen as American. I had African American friends and even picked on Somali Bantu kids because I wanted to fit in. I hated this part of myself. Was I more of an immigrant or more of an American? I can relate to both communities, but what I couldn't understand was why it even mattered where we're from and why both sides hated each other. I think one of the reasons that some African Americans have this hate towards us is because they genuinely do feel like we threw them under the bus. They feel hurt that nobody was there for them. I had to dig deep and ask a couple people if they see the same problem as me from both sides. I did some research, read some collegiate articles. I found out that this problem has been going on since MLK and Malcolm X times. I wanted to get some answers to the questions that I had, but I was only left with more questions. First day of school, my teacher, Miss Bury, told us about a poem called The Danger of a Single Story. It's when you have just one single story and that's all you believe your entire life. My mom has a single story of black people. She believes that they're all bad people who will corrupt you. I wanted to ask her so many times why and where you got this story about people you've never had contact with. I have a single story too, but I'm not trapped into that single story. I never asked my mom. I couldn't talk about it because of shame. How do I address the fact that our own people don't even like each other? I stepped into their shoes and embraced the African American culture. I understand the tension from both sides of the story. Nobody wants to address the elephant in the room because it is a sensitive topic. But isn't that what we need? To talk, to have conversation, and tell our stories in order for things to change. Here I am, writing and changing the single story from both sides, trying to make conversation around it, challenging the norm of a single story, just like Miss Bury said.